what love is.
And then you have the eros, which is the attraction,
Yes. Okay.
um,
And then we have
agape.
which
Yeah.
is God kind of love, right?
There's two others, but yeah.
That that's three is fine.
What are the two others? Just out of curiosity.
There's storge, which I can never remember, and then another. I did this for RS long ago.
Interesting. So why is there so many definitions of love? First of all,
Because there's different types.
Yeah.
isn't it? Shouldn't
Um,
love be all like encompassing? Isn't it just one general?
no, so storge
Yeah,
is like
that's
parental
called
love.
incest.
Sorry, say that again.
Parental love.
Oh right, okay. Interesting. So we're defining all these loves based on relationship and what they feel like. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna start by asking everyone on the panel and even everyone that's listening now. Is love really enough in a relationship, any relationship now? Brotherly, parental, spousal, mother and child, friends. Is love really all that?
Wow. I'm really getting some very sad answers of no.
So
And I don't agree.
honestly.
All of you should say yes, because love is the best.
So I actually want to hear from the people that are saying no. So please raise your hand, put a comment as to why you're saying love is not enough. And then while we're getting while the poll is still running and we're getting all this data, on the panel, we obviously know Marilyn's opinion. Sandra, do you think love is enough for all these relationships?
Yes and no. No, no, no. Love is not enough. It can't be standalone, because I truly believe that love not fades, but it transitions. So you'll have like your passionate kind of love, and then you'll have the brotherly type of love. Then it'll be unconditional. Like I have another question as to, when you're thinking about romantic pairings and stuff like that, is that a combination of all the types of love, like those brotherly, romantic, and unconditional type of love, or like can it develop on one?
That's just eros, isn't it? It's based on attraction.
Is it just eros when you go into a relationship?
Well, based on what Sandra's saying, if it transitions, then it starts off.
I don't think it's just eros, particularly if you're in a church setting. They're going to tell you you shouldn't awaken love before it's time. So what eros are we using?
But let's be honest, is that not what we all do?
I don't know.
The funny thing is that I was in a discussion earlier on my secondary school WhatsApp forum, and they were asking exactly the same question. My thoughts on it is that we all start our relationships from a position of values, commonality, right? Of course, we want to be attracted to that person in the first place, but the relationship does not start based on only attraction. There are people that you find yourself attracted to, and then you go into a discussion with, and you're like, nah, right? So a relationship oftentimes starts from the place of common values and attraction. And like Sandra said, it's what's the word you used? It grows. Transitions, right? It transitions. And going back to the questions I was asked initially, one, I likened relationship with or love, I likened it to living things because they all share the same characteristics. So if all living things dies, relationship also can die. Does that make sense? Yeah, every relationship can die. It doesn't matter whether it's built on love or it's built on fakeness. In fact, somebody asked that question that, is it possible to be in is it possible for a value-centered relationship to work as opposed to a love-based relationship? A relationship based on values will work as long as those values are upheld, right? While a relationship based on love, if the love fades, it dies. What about that? Think about it. You'll see that, and I said most marriages are virtually value-centered relationship rather than relationship based on love. Because really, they can't really claim that they love each other anymore, right, over years. But because they have values together that, we don't believe in divorce. We are Christians. Our parents, what would they say? Our background does not allow that. Guess what people tend to do? They endure it through.
Love endures all. That's where I disagree, because I think that all these things, I said before that love is all encompassing. So if you don't respect my values, you don't love me. Like, all these things for me are a part of love, because love is in action, not in emotion.
Yeah, but the thing there is that over time, this concept of love, if values are not built together, if values change, if we see all that value together, that's where we can endure it. The minute that value, our values change. For example, two people are married that are Christians that never believe in divorce, right? If one backslides and now believes in divorce, everything's changed.
So as far as you're concerned, Pope, what actually holds up a relationship is not love, it's values.
Because love changes with time. And I'll tell you the reason why I said it changes. Based on the definition that we're giving that there are three expressions of love. And I always believe that in every relationship, these three must always be in every relationship to work, right? So the agape one is unconditional. Pastor John taught us today that, it is love that is imparted. So if the person is not born again, they can never understand that love, right? It has to be imparted. It cannot be learned. It cannot be taught, right? They can have glimpse of it, but it cannot be taught. It cannot be learned. Philia has to be continuously nurtured because it's friendship. Friendship that's not nurtured will always die. Eros, attraction does not stay forever. So based on the two, you need to continuously to work on it for it to survive.
If we're going to go based on that, Pastor John also said in his preaching that love is an exercise. You got to exercise it.
Yeah. So you need to be working on it continuously as long as both of you chooses to continue to work on it.
But then that's still love, not
if both of you
don't change.
Right? And when the question was asked earlier that is love enough, I will tell you 5 things straight away that I think I accept that love is the base of any relationship. But the foundation of a house does not make a house.
So what are the 5 things?
And I share this every time we do marriage class, right? Number 1, physical maturity. The person needs to be physically matured. You cannot claim to love a baby or a child.
There is another.
The physical maturity is there. Number 2, spiritual maturity is important, right? Number 3, emotional maturity is important. That guy is not a bank. A lot of people are looking for a husband that they can just dump all their emotional challenges on, thinking that it's a savings account. Right? Even savings account, you get reward at some point, right? Number 4, both of you must be ready and prepared for marriage. A lot of us went into marriage not really understanding the concept of marriage. Knowledge, understanding is important. So the fact that you love someone, my friend, keep quiet, you're still a boy until you understand what you are getting yourself into. And then obviously,
Pastor Fair, I feel like in Christendom, it's so easy to have a long marriage, right? Because if you're centering it on values, it's so easy to uphold that. To have a happy marriage is where the work is. Like, and they're not just because one is long doesn't mean it's happy. So I just feel like when we put all these instances in place, I think love in the romantic sense, it needs to be there. You can't just have a partnership based on values. I just think that it's so
be there. I agree 100%. In the romantic sense has to be there. If not, there's no oil in that marriage.
I think I kind of get where Pip's coming from, because if you think about the question, is it enough to sustain what a marriage or a relationship should be? I can see why you would say it's not enough. It's okay to start off. It's good as part of the ingredients in the mix. But is it enough to uphold what the institution of a marriage or whatever other kind of relationship should be? Maybe not.
I mean, if we're looking at it from a foundation, it's a foundation that actually upholds something. So that's what keeps you going. And we're saying that God is the foundation and God is love. So I feel like in the technical sense of is love enough? Yes, it is. But you have to be active in your love. Like when Jesus died, for God so loved the world. Your love is always in action.
Then I'm not marrying Jesus.
That's 1/3 of love, because that is agape. Never forget the other two, right? Because this is the mistake that we make as Christians. We equate God's kind of love, the kind of love that Bible has described, right? We equate that as the totality of love. We go into relationship because, we should love ourselves unconditionally. No, the other two requires a lot of work. Right? I've seen marriages that to everybody they think that it is working, but sexually they're not even involved again. Right? Why? Because they love each other unconditionally, but Eros, they're not working on it because every time the woman will be dressing like a Yarisi in the house.
Or the man.
I mean,
dressing like a white kappa.
I guess my view of what love is a bit different. I would put all those things under it because I think you need to work. Love is work. That's my view.
They say love is a verb, it's a doing word. You have to keep on putting in the action.
So it sounds like our argument is whether or not love is all of these things that we're talking about, or just a feeling, or the romantic parts, or the brotherly friendship parts.
The romantic part is 1/3. The brotherly friendship is 1/3, right? The brotherly friendship, I always say that you must be creating experiences, right? So if both of you are just sitting down watching TV at home, you're not creating any experience. Because when you are in your thrust of life, when challenges are thrown at you in life, in marriage, it is those experiences that you lean on to bring you out of it. Because you'll be like, do you remember when we did so? But if all you are doing is watching TV at home, you realize that
there's nothing else to do.
Even if it is going for a walk. You remember when we were living in Chaffonde that we used to walk everywhere? It is part of the experiences. Do you get it? So all those things, they actually...
So what you're saying is basically love has 3 elements. It's still the same thing. It's still coming down to love.
Yeah, love has 3 elements. Those 3 elements has to be there for us to even say that the foundation is set.
Can I ask a question? So in 1 Corinthians 13, it says love is a bunch of things, right?
Kind of love.
Sorry? God's kind of love. Wow. So that's not the love. That's not the love that we should be sharing with people.
Love pie is what's defined in 1 Corinthians 13, apparently.
It's God's kind of love pie.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't
love. So people saying there's this kind of love, there's agape love, there's philia, and then there's the emotional eros love. The one that's described in 1 Corinthians 13 is God's kind of love. So the others are.
I've been to many weddings and they recite that like it's part of the vows. Yeah. That is what love is supposed to be. So are we saying now that is not the love that's supposed to be between 2 people?
It's not sufficient in itself.
It's not, sorry, I didn't hear that.
It's not sufficient in itself. You know why? Because it's the love that love in 1 Corinthians 13 is same love that should exist amongst every brothers, every Christian. Whether we engage in a different way or not.
True.
It's the kind of love that should exist. It's the kind of love that Jesus Christ laid his life down for us.
So you're saying that it's not enough for marrying somebody?
It's one aspect of it in marriage, because attraction and that one is important. In fact, it's the oil of marriage.
Is it? So we're saying that without those things, they don't sustain, but at the same time, we say those things fade away. I need us to expand on this, please.
This is what I said. Those 3 types of love must be there for us to say we have a foundation.
Hold on, no, because arranged marriages, like their foundation, when you go into arranged marriages, they have a solid foundation, but love is not there in the beginning.
Arranged marriage. So in the initial, when we were discussing this, we started talking about values and love and blah blah blah. Arranged marriages, can we say there's even love there? Let me not give my own opinion.
There, but there's values there. That's why I said such marriages will hold. They can even weather the storms of life, but it doesn't mean that there's love there. Do you get it? Because they might be sticking it through because their parents brought them together. They don't want to bring shame to their family.
But a lot of people do arranged marriages by choice, and most of them last longer than the average marriage. And I've heard and seen a lot of people that do that and grow to love each other. So they don't put that feeling first.
Definitely, it's not impossible. So let's
if an arranged marriage can work.
If love enough, number one, the three aspects of love has to be, imagine love as a circle, right? And each or a pie. Each type of love is only a part of that pie. For it to be a full pie, every part of it has to be there, right? For if we don't say we are in love with someone, then it has to be fully integrated to one another, right? Now, that in its own self is only the foundation of marriage. It's only the foundation of marriage.
Can I ask a question to everyone here? What is love to you? Like, what is your definition of love? Take away the 1 Corinthians, whatever. What is love to you?
That's what the problem is.
Cares about me.
Cares about you. So caring.
Honestly,
Yeah.
for me, I think I'm still uncovering it. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't think there's a definition that really encompasses what it is. It's not, because like what you said, it transitions, it changes so much, and there's so much more to it. I don't have a definition. I can't explain what love. I have an idea of what it should be, but what it really is, I think until you experience certain things, it's hard to say.
Sandra, I want to hear your thoughts on that. What's love to you?
So I think it's been indoctrinated into me that love is sacrifice. So it's like I can't even gauge somebody's love until they've sacrificed something. And it's probably bad, but it's because I see that as the epitome of love, like the epitome of kindness, the epitome of like caring, like the epitome of care, like you sacrificing something for me. It might be your time, it might be your energy, it might be your efforts, but you've sacrificed something for me. And that's how
Stephen Covey puts it as this, right? It says, if one gives up your own values or you make all the sacrifice for the other person, you're compromising, and over time, it's going to get to a time if that person is not living up to your expectation, what is going to happen is that you're going to become resentful, right? And I see that play out in a lot of marriage when, okay, things were not okay for the other person and making all the sacrifice, and then after a while, things start getting okay for you. I'm starting to have expectation. You're not even looking my way because you have your own things that you need to sort out. And it doesn't just... Now, it is best to synergize. And this is the way I always try to put it. This is Sandra. This is your husband, right? Both of you make sacrifices for the sake of the marriage rather for the individual sake. Does that make sense? So you make the sacrifice for the marriage in the middle, and as time goes on, what will happen is that both of you will be fully fitted into one another, because the reason why you are doing what you are doing, and the things that you're sacrificing for one another is actually your marriage itself. So for example, I'll give you an example. After work, it doesn't matter what's happening, the first thing I do is I have to first come home, right? It's not because I don't have friends that I can go and play with or anything like that, but I want to come after work. I want to spend the next phase of my energy in my own home, right? So I'm making that sacrifice, not just for my wife, but for the sake of my marriage. So if tomorrow she is not able to make that sacrifice for the sake of the marriage, I don't blame her for it, because I wasn't making it for her in the first place. I was making it for my marriage. So for me, the sacrifice that I'm making still feels like it is for my sake, yet it's for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a few comments. Let's hear what people are saying. The first question, Pope, where is your red? Everybody's wearing red.
Because I'm special.
Wow, okay. Someone says they agree with emotional and spiritual maturity, like Pope said. You can say you love someone, but until you're healed from past wounds, I don't believe that you can fully love. Someone else says, I think love is sacrificial. God displayed love in that way to mankind. In relation to the discussion we just had now about sacrifice and stuff, someone said, I feel like what you guys are describing are love languages rather than what love actually is. So we're now going to a conversation of the expression of love before we've not still said or agreed anyway, even on the panel, whether we think love is 3 components in one or whether love by itself includes values, doesn't include values. We're still debating that.
I think to separate the love language from love negates what love is. Like, you can't just state love. The only person that word is backed up by themselves is God. Everybody else, if your words are said, they're empty. Love is backed up by action, the same way that faith without works is dead. So the idea of a love language still, as far as I'm concerned, is almost synonymous with love because it's part of the activity part.
It's more the expression of it, and you cannot define something by the expression, otherwise it will have different definitions. So the person whose love language is action or acts of service will define love like that. The person whose love is words of affirmation will define love like that. So love should have a definition that's separate to its expressions.
So the reality is difficult to describe love. I don't know whether this is true, but somebody once told me that when you kill an elephant, there's every type of meat in an elephant.
Wow.
That if you eat shark, there's a part of the elephant that tastes like shark. I don't know whether it's true. That's the same way that love is, right? Love to everyone is going to mean exactly differently because I think most of us would describe love from the place of our experiences, from the place of our values, our expectations of life. In fact, at times from our background, right? Some of us, the perfect picture of love that we've seen in our life is our parents. And that's what we're going to be looking for in the next partner. Do you get it? So all of us will always describe love from different perspectives. And go on.
No, I just Googled, the love, the meaning of love or the definition of love. And even the definitions are scattered because one will say an intense feeling of deep affection. Another will say, to feel a romantic or sexual attachment to someone, to like or enjoy something very much, affection conveyed to someone, a personified figure of a formula for ending an affectionate letter. Well, that's just a definition, but in terms of like, it's how it's expressed is very very open, it's very wide, and it's just the affection that you feel for somebody else.
It's interesting that you actually open that because when you keep looking at these definitions as it's written, as you just said it, we describe much because we're looking at it from a Christian perspective. It describes more of lust. Did you get it? Because this deep affection or deep, it's always something like, love should not be something that you cannot control.
But you have deep affection for your parents, so I wouldn't say that. I feel like it was talking about a couple of types of love.
Well, and another definition says something that you do rather for something that is for pleasure rather than profit, so that you do it because you want to rather than because you're gaining something from it, is what I'm hearing there.
Yeah, that sounds more like your sacrificial side, but at the same time, it also sounds a bit like New Age.
What?
He said New Age.
Oh God.
Oh, I thought it was like passion, like when we talk about things that you're like, when they talk about your job, for instance, pick something that you'd be happy to do if you weren't getting paid for it. Those sorts of things. It's like something you're passionate about that you love.
So, go on, Laura.
I was just going to say, I'm still very confused on this whole love, no love matter.
So what is the question? What is love, or is love enough? Obviously,
is love is enough. But then when I started thinking, wait, what is love before we can even quantify whether it's enough or not?
So we've agreed now that love is not indescribable.
Yeah, there's no definition apparently.
Okay, Bible makes us realize that God is love. So if you're trying to describe God, when are you going to stop?
It's true.
You cannot describe God. The only way you can describe love really is by the experiences of love that you have. The same way that you can describe God is that it's only the experience of God that you have that you can use to describe God.
Doesn't that make the whole love experience and definition and even this entire discussion very subjective?
Yeah, so no, love is subjective. That's why love is subjective, but this whole discussion is not subjective because apart from the subjectivity of love, right, there are some things on love that needs to be certain.
Okay.
Love is subjective, but there are some things that you going to a relationship or you that you're saying that you're ready for a relationship must be certain that, oh, I'm ready for this. Right? Like Bible will say, don't make a shipwreck of your love journey. Because at times we jump into relationships even when we're not ready. I'll make a shipwreck of it. We go to another one, make a shipwreck of it. We'll be thinking that it's all the boys or all the girls that has problem. You're not looking inward.
From people's comments, yeah, love seems to me like something that, like, without a doubt, back-to-back failure. Every love exam that I have will just be failure because love is so different. Love is so big, so something. It's like air, like something that you can't even just define.
But you need it to be.
So I was just thinking, like, even earlier during the preaching, Pastor John talked about love being a gift from God as well as a fruit of the Spirit. So there's aspects of love, like when we look at the agape love, which is expressed through God's help. And so those parts of it, if we try and think that we can do it by ourselves, it's not our natural inclination. And then there's the idea of coming together with somebody else and loving them in the way they expect to be loved as well. And so I think therein lies the subjectivity, because you have to look at your specific situations to equate some of these things that are considered love, if that makes sense.
See, the true measure of whether you love somebody that you're in the relationship with is when both of you die together. Get married until you die.
Not Titanic.
On outside, we die together.
Stay in marriage until you die.
Okay.
You can look back and be like, yeah, despite it all, we went through it together.
So I just thought about this idea of ride or die.
That is actually where you can look back and be. So not to be retrospect rather than.
Okay.
So it's because think about when this concept of love and marriage was introduced to us, is from the position of marriage, isn't it? And it was in two people coming together as one. No private agenda, not that I'm making sacrifice for you because what I'm doing, we are doing for ourselves. Does that make sense? It's not like I'm doing something for you or you are doing something for me. We are doing we.
So that means love can only be in past tense, like it's only from what you've done and not from what you're thinking ahead.
Because we said it's an action, right?
I actually said that today, that when it was introduced to us from Jesus, John chapter 3 verse 16, for God so loved the world, completed. That is why he could say that he loved the world, because he made it happen.
So does that mean that you can never say you love someone until it's complete, until your journey together is complete?
That's your evidence, because otherwise you're just saying it.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Even when you think about what you said about it being a sacrifice, until somebody has actually sacrificed for you, they can't tell you that they love you. They can tell you, I can give up my life, I'll give up my house, I'll give up my money. But until they've done it, they're just talking.
And somebody was talking about love languages earlier, and I looked at it quickly and I thought, just passing through, Jesus demonstrated the whole 5 love languages for us completely. Yeah.
I said he did.
That's it. Isn't it? He came to this world, quality time, right? He served us, act of service. Which one is next again?
Gifts.
He gave, I've said that.
He was the gift.
Touch.
There's physical touch and there's...
How did Jesus touch us? I've never been physically touched by Jesus.
Oh, really? Okay, so at times, so when you're saying that God touched me, you know it.
Honestly, she's opened her mouth to use those words.
I said physically touched.
You.
Interesting.
Truly yourself, you do what is in the best interest. In your best interest, regardless of your want. Sorry to read. Is where
you truly love yourself. You do what is in your best interest, regardless of your wants or needs. Very superficial example is exercising when you don't feel like it because of your health. Sorry, some of us don't fall under that category because even though we love ourselves and we know we should exercise, the will is just not there.
So basically, you don't love yourself.
No, my self-love is allowing myself to rest.
Of emotions in this thing called love, because the minute you feel emotional about someone, you think that you love. And one of the things that I realized in this generation is that possibly, maybe people really do not understand how to express love. They think that they have to express it in other ways that lead into sin. Do you get it? Because at times you just showing a platonic love to someone, they start to think about other things.
Oh my days.
So I think that we need to speak about this concept of love still from the position of emotions. How do you manage emotions? Where does emotional maturity come in before you get married? Right? Over to you, Red.
Okay, so then I don't even know where to begin. We're saying now love. Okay, so let's just conclude this first part of it. We've said love is vast. You cannot truly say that you love somebody until you have done what love requires you to do, until you've done a particular action. So the question,
we have agreed, apart from Marilyn, that love is not enough.
Yes, love is not enough. It's a foundational aspect of marital relationships.
One of the extras that love requires is emotional maturity.
Let's talk about it.
Love matures. Love is patient.
Love doesn't mature.
It does. What are you saying?
You can't love somebody to maturity, because otherwise we're bringing this rhetoric of, oh yeah, women can fix men with their love. Love does not.
That is not what I said. I said love matures, not that the love causes somebody to mature. Okay. That is something different, please.
Somebody asked the question, can a marriage survive without love?
Yeah, there's loads of marriages, but there's loads of marriages.
The Bible was filled with them. I don't know that half of the people in the Bible love themselves.
The values that they are holding on to.
We're not talking about happy marriages. We're just talking about marriages that I'm just saying.
Marriage to be happy. Because
let me tell you something. They can actually be happy if they keep doing the things that the marriage requires. But are they in love? Maybe not.
In love going, I don't even,
because when you look at oftentimes all these wags and all these things, right? They stay in it because come on, the money is coming in and everything. You can live the life.
But that might be my love language. It's part of love.
Yes, Marilyn, I will find a footballer for you. Don't worry.
That they are not happy. They are happy, but are they in love? Maybe not. They just it's not.
Being in love, anyway, let's not even open that can of worms. So let's go back to emotional maturity. So let's talk about why emotional maturity is so important if I truly have all these three definitions of love as my foundation.
I feel the biggest challenge that we have with this issue about emotional maturity is that when marriage is coming on, it is meant to be the equation of 1 + 1 = 1, right? So oftentimes what we tend to see is that a lot of people carry all the baggages that they've had in time past, right? And they are hoping that, oh, they meet this person will just fill that part of them, right? This person that cannot, or, this is why most of us, we have all these funny ideologies about marriage that, oh, when I get married, it's just going to be me and my boo only, right? But what about if the guy ends up being somebody different? Do you get it? You must be fully sufficient by yourself, spirit, soul, and body. You must be confident in who you are as a person. You must be at a level where, oh my God, I can be an individual. Whatever anybody is now bringing to you in marriage is meant to be complementary rather than, oh, you are dumping your luggage on him. The guy too has his own that he's dealing with.
Girl.
Or, sorry, I'm just stop being...
because genuinely, it's mostly women that actually...
Anyway, it's just
So
what...
I just wanted to say, if I am sufficient in my broke state, but your money will complement me, is that okay?
Gracious.
I'm asking for a friend.
They're looking for a rich Russian oligarch for Marilyn. Oh my god. Okay, so if I'm self-sufficient
in your emotion.
What does that even mean, to be self-sufficient in my emotions?
I will tell you some. See, there are people that are devoid of love, right? Their love bank is virtually zero. They're looking for someone to just feel it. What will happen is that you're going to just place all those weight on someone. That's why people that are devoid of such, they are attention seekers.
Right.
Right? See, at times, some of us grew without our... Sorry, I'm going to use from the feminine side as well. At times, some of us grew without our fathers, right? And we have what you guys call daddy issues, right? And we keep looking for this person that you're getting married to also be a father.
Mm.
And when that person is not meeting up to that, you realize that you start playing in different ways as well. You need to deal with your emotions completely.
I feel like personally, if I reach the stage of true emotional maturity, why do I need anyone else? Like, what would be my need for somebody else?
Yeah, but both, if you get to the place of true emotional maturity, it is, so you are the one that said, oh, you want somebody to sacrifice for you.
No, that's what I see love as, not that.
Yeah, that's fine. But so what is there is that if you are at a good position emotionally, you must be able to sacrifice your own emotions also for the other person. You must have enough for you to be able to sacrifice for the other person. But someone that is not matured emotionally is always taking. Overwhelm that love that person has for you. After a while, the guy will just be like, come on, girl, I've got my own issues too, you know.
Is that emotional maturity or emotional intelligence?
I don't even think it's maturity.
I think that comes into it though, isn't it?
It just comes into you, but emotional maturity, yeah. Because if you're not emotionally matured, you cannot claim to be emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
So how do you develop emotional maturity? Isn't that from experience? So you have to actually go through a lot of pain before you become. Not
necessarily, it's about learning. So I'll give an example. I was thinking about it earlier today when I was coming from church. When it comes to marriage, there's no book on marriage for me that is important than for me to learn from people's directly. So if I'm speaking to you about your marriage now, I'm actually learning a lot from you, right? If I heard that something happened to Jack and Jill, right, I'm mirroring it straight in my life that, oh, how can I ensure that this does not happen in my own home? Does that make sense? So you learn. Growth is by learning. In anything, growth is by learning.
But even that want to learn is intelligence. And like, I feel like emotional intelligence is the bedrock of maturity. So you're becoming aware and then being intentional about improving.
But this is the reality though. A lot of people go into, okay, I guess that goes back to what Pulpit was saying earlier about preparation for marriage. A lot of people don't even know what they don't know. A lot of people are not self-aware. I think we talked about this last week when we did emotional intelligence. They're not aware of the areas in them that's going to have a negative impact on somebody else or on a relationship. So then are we going to say those kind of people shouldn't go into a marriage even though they love somebody?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of unfinished people go into marriage, and sometimes it's marriage that finishes them. Not that you should go in with the intention that somebody else is going to fix me, but some of the maturity has to come from that experience of marriage, or that kind of sacrifice that you have to make within a partnership. So some people can't even develop to their full maturity unless they're with their helpmate or whatever you want to call it.
biggest challenge that I've seen in this emotional journey, maturity journey, is that everything that happens to us, we struggle to learn from it. And rather than learning, we blame. Does that make sense? You know, not everything, right? But most things that happens to us, right, can strengthen us. They can strengthen us if we choose to take the strength from it, if you can pay attention to it and learn of it retrospectively. Because there must be something that you could have done differently that could have resulted differently. But rather than that, we see the fault in everybody's side rather than learning. So it's in learning of what life throws at us that makes us stronger emotionally.
Yeah, but that's suffering. So you're like, I feel like I can't reach in that instance, I can't reach full maturity until I've gone through a period of suffering for experience. So it's just like, I feel like, can you truly love if you've never been heartbroken or disappointed or felt that those negative aspects? Can you truly love somebody wholly?
You need to be hurt before you love. You don't need to. You get it. But at the same time, if somebody hurts you, if somebody's jilted you, right? Then it is wisdom to sit down and reflect on how it went. Okay, so next time I will ensure that I don't do this, so that I protect myself as well.
Okay, so let's take love out of it. How do we develop resilience, right, without going through things prior to it and going through that particular situation? And I think love is one of the, because it's a verb, it's a doing thing. So it's like,
so for me, right? I believe that one of the ingredients of love is actually vulnerability rather than resilience. Do you get where I'm coming from? I believe it's vulnerable. You must be able, for you to claim that you love someone, they must be able to be vulnerable to you, and you must be able to be vulnerable to them. Does that make sense? If we are trying to play in resilience there, that means trust is an issue. And that means that we are not even healed of our emotional past.
Resilience was an example outside of love. I don't know what you need for love. I'm not sure. Okay, what characteristics do you need for love then?
Emotional qualities that we're talking about. So I guess one of them we've said is vulnerability, and I completely agree. If you can't be vulnerable, you have no business getting married to the person or even involving yourself with them in the first place, because so vulnerability is one.
I think you must also get to the point of not being judgmental. Is a big one, right? Understanding that everybody is not like you. You might hold the moral high ground does not mean that you are better than that person. Do you get it? The way all of us see life is different, and you must be ready to accept that person the way they are.
That's a big one,
right? The way they are. I think that is a big place in the emotional maturity. You know, because I've seen that in African marriages at times. That's why at times most of us cannot open up to our partners the way we really are. Meanwhile, you're suffering under there are things that you like that you cannot even say to your partner because you don't want them to look at you in a particular way, especially if your partner is Jin. Is the one that came after Jesus.
Do you know what? Yeah, in terms of, I was speaking to my mom recently, and I said that because when I was growing up, we moved around a lot. I don't really. So the other side is that I trust people too quickly, and the other side is that I don't really get too invested because of the situations I've been in previously. Like, so would you say that somebody that has these kind of instances, or how would you even develop maturity in those kind of instances without failing? Without failing?
Everything is about training, isn't it? Once upon a time, I was sharing with someone who I think what they had was their dad was never really part of their life. And I'm like, see, if your dad was never part of your life, how will you know how to relate to your husband?
No.
Oh, you'll be surprised.
No.
You'll be surprised.
Yes.
There's people that have grown up in single parent households that are emotionally mature, and they use that as a measure of what they don't want to do.
Exactly, they learned from it. You see what I'm talking about? They learned from it. I never had my dad. My dad was left when I was 8 days. So I learned from it that, okay, I will not be like this man, regardless of what happens. Do you get it? And that's what you need to do. You need to also think about it that, okay, what can I do? At times, you might need to practicalize with other people, right? Try to stay in a relationship regardless of what they do to you. Even if
No, disclaimer.
Wait, I'm not saying a love relationship, even with your friend. Let's assume your co-friend that is in your house currently disturbing us earlier, right? You can mind that no matter what this girl does to me, right, I'm going to hold it forever. Guess what? You are holding on to loyalty. Does that make sense? You're training yourself to be able to stay in a relationship.
That could be detrimental though. If the person is not useful, you're like, what would be the essence of?
You know when to move on, but you must learn as well not to just hop friendship.
I don't do that to anyone. Thank you very much. With my friends, it's very.
Okay, so we've got a few comments coming in.
I think we have a question as well.
Yeah, I feel like when you're a whole person in yourself, the next level is to pour out all that love that you have into somebody else. I think that's beautiful and very idealist, but the reality may not always be.
How does it work? If my cup is full, how can you pour into me?
There's that aspect of it.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that what do you think is one of the benefits of having toys when you were younger?
Learning.
Right. So, for example, you are giving, oftentimes, even guys are giving teddy bears and things to play with like that. It's so that you can actually learn that, you can pour emotions on something, you can care for something. So you are emotional stable when you are able to, there are people that cannot really point to one person that they are actually pouring a bit of love into. Mm-hmm. If you cannot point to people that you are actually pouring a bit of love into, younger than you, older than you, medium, I'm not talking about your family members because that is normal, right? If you cannot point to anybody like that, I'm not sure you are ready to get married.
The question isn't, because me and my husband were having a conversation one day, and we came to the realization that he was of that perspective that, I have to pour into others. But if you don't open yourself up to receive as well because you're so full, you're not ready for that partnership.
Yeah, you're not ready too. It's both ways.
But that's where vulnerability came, that Papa was talking about, comes into.
Some people can pour, but they can't receive.
Yeah, it's a problem.
That's me.
Problem.
Last time I tried to give my name, she was like, "Why? I don't need it, and I won't give you again."
But what is that Russian oligarch supposed to be doing then, Marilyn, if you don't want to accept? I'm tired. Another comment says, isn't resilience the ability to withstand hurt in a relationship? Resilience is important in a relationship, but not to the point where you are resilient to your relationship. Mm-hmm. So it needs to be balanced with vulnerability.
Because from resilience, that becomes resentment.
Hey,
hold on. That went from 0 to 100. How does resilience turn into resentment?
It does, because you're just withstanding. You're taking in all of this hurt, and you're withstanding it. Eventually, you're going to resent the person. You're going to continue taking it because you want to stay in the marriage. You're not going to like that person at all.
In fact, let me be honest with you. I don't think that you should withstand any hurt in your relationship. If you're in a relationship and the person does something that's hurtful to you, you must be able to communicate to that person effectively. Mm. If the person does it continually, then I will, what's that word of that person's love for you?
Question.
Do you get where I'm coming from? So there's no point just taking it in. One day you're going to break. Come on. You're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about exercise?
It's only you and I.
I was going to say another important aspect of this emotional maturity we're talking about is the ability to hold people accountable for their actions. So if your partner is doing something that you don't like, Be mature enough to go and approach them and talk about it. We spoke again about this last week, so I move on.
What have I done for you today? I'm not, don't know. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just using
I
different.
already told her it's because the word was for her. She felt it in her spirit.
Another comment says, I think people learn in different ways. Some learn from maybe their parents, neighbors, but some just have to go through the pain to learn how to value what they have. That's also true. Okay. A question here is, what of those, I don't know if this is a serious question or not, but okay. What of those who actively reject love?
Yeah, and there are loads of people like that, truly, because they've never experienced it before. Not that they don't know, because it's not something that is normal to them. They don't know how to accept it, right? So that occurs, or at times because of the experiences that people have had before, when they accepted love, guess what they do? And if that acceptance of that love that they had before turned out negatively, they pull up a wall as their defense. So when you try to get close to them, they quickly put, no, don't go there. It's a no-go area. Don't forget about love, Don't worry. In fact, there are people that when you speak with them, they will tell you that they've never fallen in love in a relationship before. Because they now start going in with their head. It's a mechanism, it's a defense mechanism. Listen, you want to get married, learn to pull it down. This concept of marriage, remember, one part of your love for your husband is 100% emotional.
I feel like you have to have a grace for such people, though. Like, not everybody can go and work with someone like that, because that person requires patience. Because they're going to lash out. It's like a wounded animal. When you're helping them, expect to receive the hurt, and you need to have the grace and the patience to push through that with their help for recovery. But you're not called to that. Don't go and do it.
So the people like that, the kind of relationship that they go to that works for them, right, will be value-centered relationship, not one that is based on love, right? I don't know so much. I don't want to mention before they sue me, because this is live and it's going on, right? But there are people that I've seen that were presidents and the wife in the United States sometime back, that the love between them, you cannot really say, right? But when it comes to what they want to achieve, they are very plastic in that. They know, it's like every part of their life is programmed, they know what they need to do part time.
That being said, right, it's what if gift receiving or gift was their love language? So in essence, they did love that person based on what they could receive from that person. So that is their own version of love, or their own.
If that gift receiving or gift giving is getting to their emotions, then that is great. But oftentimes, it's a transactional relationship.
What relationships are transactional?
Oh, you give, I give you. You don't give me, I don't give you. It's transaction.
Yeah, it's transactional.
All of them is what she said.
You care for me, I care for you. You respect me, I love you. Like, they're all transactional.
I love
it's are transactional.
We look at some of these questions.
Okay, question number 1. Hurt people cannot love other people. Is this true? I don't think it's true fully. They can, like we're just saying now, they can have this emotional love and feeling towards the person, but how they express that and whether they can do the action of loving this person so that when they get to the end of the journey, they can say, I have loved, they might struggle with that because of their hurt. But to say that they can't love.
So when it comes to hurt people, this is like, I see it as an image, right? So imagine you have a cake, right? And when somebody's hurt, a part of the cake is missing. So they can love you with the remainder of the cake, but they can't like love you fully because there's still a part of the cake that has been given to somebody else. And that's how I see as hurt people and love. They can love you, but it won't be to the way that they loved like the person before, and that's because they gave the whole of themselves to the person previously, and they can only give part of themselves to you because of that hurt until they bake that cake again and make themselves whole.
And I like that that analogy. Now, somebody that is continuously hurt, and you hurt now because of that vacuum that hurt creates. You want to quickly go into another relationship, then it messes you up again. You go to another one, it messes you up again. One day you're going to realize that there's no more cake. Right? There's this boomerang effect that we say in relationship, that, oh, so look at the way it works. If you were in a hurtful relationship and you come out, the next person that you're going to date will suffer it.
Yeah.
Right? Hence, it is important for you to try to heal before going to another relationship. Right? Don't just be opening yourself to, because if somebody hurts you now, when you are going to the next relationship, you're taking all those baggage with it. You are being careful. You're being paranoid, and then it leads to something else, and you cry again. You carry the times two.
I was reading a book about attachment theories, right? And they said that, you can have somebody that's anxious, avoidant, and whatever, but you can leave a relationship with like an avoidant person, and that can make you feel some kind of void, but then you can get with someone that's secure, and they could fill that void. So I'm not sure if I'm of the analogy that you have to fully heal yourself, or you have to fully make your cake before you go into something else, because your next attachment might be the one that will help you.
How would you know whether?
Yes, that's a risk, because it could also be the case of where you now become a burden to the other person, and then you start taking pieces of their cake and leave them.
Because what that avoidance theory is going to do is that it's going to make you forget that last person. Does that make sense? It makes you forget about the experience of that person, but you still need to heal.
I think because of the way life is, some of our experiences, hurt and healings will never be unraveled until we enter interactions with others, whether that's a friendship or a relationship. And so certain things you don't realize you're dealing with until you're in a relationship, if that makes sense. And therefore that relationship may be a catalyst for the healing, because it's what even uncovers the fact that this is actually still an issue and you need to deal with it, if that makes sense. It's not on the relationship to heal it, but rather until you're in that circumstance, you won't even recognize that this is something that's a problem.
Question?
Next question. Should all relationships end in marriage? When starting a relationship, should marriage be on your mind?
Okay.
The Christian answer or
Honestly.
the normal answer?
Who wants to go first? I have my own response.
I have my own response too.
First is no.
I will go first because I know all of you want the Christian version, and then so it depends on your age. It depends on whether you're ready for marriage. If you're ready for marriage, listen, there's nothing wrong in marriage in your mind first. Now, I will also encourage that you don't need to be ready for marriage before you go into a relationship, because if you don't go into a relationship, you will not understand how to relate when the actual relationship comes. It's just that when you are in relationship, when you're not ready for marriage, you must know what you are going into and ensure that you don't fall into sin and you don't mess up and you don't put yourself in a position of a hurt. Does that make sense? You must. I will encourage anyone that is university age, go to university, go into relationship, learn the ropes of how to relate with the opposite sex in a love relationship, but yet you must ensure that you're not defiling yourself. What do you have to say against that?
A hard one. When you're young like that, self-control is a problem.
Then, if you know that self-control is a problem, then maybe that's what you first learn.
Yeah. So should we go into the battlefield to learn self-control?
Don't go. That's what I'm saying.
But my thing is, marriage is not the destination. It's part of the journey. Marriage is the byproduct of a great relationship, to me. So you should I feel like you should go into these partnerships to have a great relationship. Marriage is part of that journey, and marriage is the byproduct of that great relationship. But I don't think that that should be your focus. Marriage shouldn't be the focus. It can be something that you put on the table, that this is what I want to happen on our journey together, but I don't think it should be the destination and the focus of every partnership.
I really like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I really, really like it. And one of the habits is that you must start with the end in mind. Right? In anything that we get ourselves into, you must always start with the end in mind. Scripture puts it in a different way. It says, where there's no vision, the people will do as they like. Right? The vision now is the end. This is what we hope to get out of this. If it doesn't happen, it's a different matter. That's fine if it doesn't happen, right? But because you have an end that you're a perceived end, a perceived future, right? There's something to work towards. And if it doesn't, if not, there'll be no standard of operation.
So should we now have marriage in mind then?
Yeah, if you're of marriageable age, you should.
Okay.
Guys, don't go and waste the guy. If you know that you're not interested in marriage, don't go there.
Excuse me, why?
Yeah, guys, yeah, because guys are good at that. They just show up, tell the stories. They won't give ring when they are not even interested.
I think it's a two-way street. So men and women can be uninterested and waste both each other's time.
This generation, absolutely. Okay, so those are all the comments and questions. Any outstanding questions from the panel before we round up?
I want to hear from the audience.
Yeah, nobody will raise up their hand today.
So,
Very
I think you should pick on someone.
Yoyi.
You were gonna do that.
Yoyi, I'm picking up on you. You have to say something. Hello, Yoyi.
Oh, hello, sir. Hello, everyone. I'm not sure. What do you want me to say? I mean, what are we talking about specifically?
So, with everything that we've discussed today and everything that we've tried to touch on, is love enough?
Love enough.
Or is there anything that you were enlightened with today, or anything that you'd like us to focus on?
From experience, is love enough?
It should, I think, from experience, love should be enough, but it depends on the type of love we're talking about. If it's the God type of love, then that should be enough. But if we're talking about all these other types, like brotherly, because they are conditional, then obviously they're not enough, because life will throw things your way that you're probably not prepared for. And then it becomes more difficult to love someone or be loved because of those conditions. But when we're talking about God's type of love, then that is unconditional, and that's more than enough.
Thank you. Let's celebrate Yoyi.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
We're going to pick two more people. I'll pick Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
hello.
So you gotta unmute.
Are you there?
Paul, you can unmute yourself.
If he was prepared for this.
Everybody's running away now.
Yeah.
I'll pick one more person. Paul, with disabling you're talking. I'll pick Kemi Lashere. Oh, sorry, it's gone. What did I do?
What did you do? Who are you looking for?
Love enough.
Okay. Sister Gabby, how are you? You can unmute now.
Hello, good evening, panelists.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
We celebrate you.
Thank you, everyone. Really grateful. It's been a very great discussion. I think there are still some things that seem to be unclear. But what I would say is, in terms of in marriage, love is not enough. I know the other person that spoke earlier on said, if it's agape love, it's enough. But like we said earlier on, if within a marriage setting, when the love fades away, what do we hold on to? And that's the reason why I asked that question, can a marriage survive without love? Because when that love is not there, what is holding the marriage together? I think someone said, I think one of the panelists said that means that the marriage you're not happy in the marriage. So I think that bit has not been addressed, that if love is not in, if a marriage can survive without love, then yeah, but the person is, and you know, one party or both parties are not happy in the marriage because they are living on values, then how can you be happy in the marriage? So that's just what I was going to say in terms of my closing remark on what we've said so far. But it's been a very interesting discussion, and I'm always a fan of Beyond the Pulpit. So thank you. So I don't know if you have time to answer my question, but
don't go yet.
I have a question.
Go on.
So you know when you said when the love fades, what love are we talking about? Because the love can fade and then something else will blossom. So eros can fade and then is it the phileas? Phileas?
Yeah. So the eros can fade, the phileas can fade, and yes, maybe the agape love is still there. But are we saying that that's enough to hold the marriage together?
So what happens when such occurs is that a question comes in. The values that is holding the marriage together, is it sufficient to make either or both parties happy?
Yeah, that's the question.
At times, people will be, you know what, because we have children amongst us, and we want our children to be the best that they're going to be. Because of the children, we keep this marriage going. And as long as the children are doing well and we are both looking after the children, we are happy.
Is that healthy though?
It isn't, but it's part of the things that we've seen. And that's why it's important for us to understand that love is not sufficient. Right? Learn to nurture the love that we have, or else it dies.
Does it depend on your love language? So if you're staying in a marriage because of if you're staying in a marriage because of the children and your acts of service, your love language is like acts of service or quality time, and the person is still there, does that will that help in that kind of situation?
I wouldn't think it's dependent on love language, because I've seen it happen several times. I've seen families that they don't sleep together, right? They don't share anything together, but for the sake of the child, they stay in the relationship. Does that make
sense?
Well,
how do you rectify that? How do you change that scenario?
All right. So I asked myself the same question today, and it has to start from both parties willing to make it work, right? Where the two parties are not willing to make it work, then it becomes difficult.
Okay.
Now, if either of both parties is not willing or does not know that, love is a very funny thing. As much as you can love someone, it can easily also turn to hate. Right? So when it gets to that point, when Stakemi, let us talk about it offline.
That's why I said that it might not be a question we're able to answer now, because I know you're trying to round up, but
not because of the time. It's because because we have a lot of young people there. Listen, young people, I'm telling you, if you're not a man, I'm telling you now, love is not enough. Or don't go and say that I love this person to marry. Me, I will tell you so. Love does not put on the table, You must understand a lot much more than love. That's why it's important. That's why it's important to actually go through counseling before you start dating the person.
Then they still don't prepare you.
Hold on. So can we marry someone that ticks all of the boxes but we don't love them?
That ticks all of the boxes. Some people do that with the hope that love will grow on them.
So can love grow?
That's why I say it's a living thing. Love grows. The same way it can die.
Nice.
It's a living thing. And anybody that's going to a relationship, have you ever seen two people that went to the altar based on hate? They always love each other. At the altar, everybody loves each other. Just that along the line, they stop nurturing. We start taking each other for granted. Right starts coming in instead of respect. Do you get it? And all those things start to kill the love gradually. So for young people, please, I'm encouraging you, before you go into any relation, before you say, you want to marry this person, ensure that they are matured enough financially. They can hold money. It's not even money that comes to their pocket that they spend.
100.
Ensure that they are matured. And then, if anybody that's in the relationship and the relationship has gone to the point where the wine is turned sour, like Stakemi was describing, first of all, let us just pray about it. Because there's nothing prayers cannot do. We have to go back to the place of prayers, because it's God that can change the heart of both parties.
Yeah.
Right? Because when it gets to that point, a lot of unforgiveness would have been built up. Offense would have been built up. So it's more cancerous when it gets to that point. That's why I said it's not something that you can just give one word to say this is what you should do.
Okay.
It has to be based on deep counseling. Yeah. Of both parties. Is that okay, ma'am?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed.
Thank you for your birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, today, as you always do. God bless you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
So we have 2 more questions before we quickly round up. We have 2 more questions before we round up. Question 1, is cohabitation a part of relationship building?
No.
Question 2, what do you mean by counseling before?
Wait, I don't believe in always saying no to people and just that's the law.
No, let me tell you, I was reading a psychological study, and it said that, I can't remember the statistics, but if you cohabitate before marriage, you're more likely to divorce after marriage than those that didn't live together before marriage. So I'm just putting that there. That's psychology. That's secular evidence.
Thank you so much. That's enough reason.
Yep. Question 2. What do you mean by counseling before dating?
So what I mean by counseling there is that you must learn before dating. No, not dating. Before you're committing to marrying someone, right? They are like we do the marriage class. In fact, most of the things that I shared today, they're the marriage notes that we do. We've not done it in I think 5 years now. God help me.
5 years? Isn't that bad?
And the marriage class is for those who are not in relationship yet. So that when you go into a relationship, when you sit across dinner with that person, you can be knowing what you are looking for. It's not only, we have a lot in common. Listen, the things that you have in common never turns to arguments in marriage. It's those things that you don't have in common. Right? And if you don't have those things in common, does that mean there's a no? Not necessarily. Right? But you need to be able to discern is this person able to move in these areas? Right? So it's important that it's good to learn of those such things. That's what it meant.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for making this conversation interesting. Hand up.
Hello, the Baccarat.
Hi. Great stuff, panelists. Thank you so much. Just the last point, Pastor Mayor, I think it's so powerful because I remember going to so many of those marriage counseling sessions when Pastor put them on. And honestly, I see the benefits of learning before starting. It's amazing because what it afforded was to learn from errors that people have made, so I didn't make those errors. And you know what, I just want to really, really just also just thank Pastor just for that as well, and just to honor you as well, Pope, because all the time you were putting in, goodness. And I remember as well, people won't turn up, and I just felt like they were key lessons. So many things that because it's like your mind becomes familiar with the errors that are there, it makes it easier to go in with your eyes open. And one good example, I still hold on to this today, is how do you deal with love when you start to see irritation? Because no one, the way we've been taught love omits those sort of teachings. Because we are not then able to handle irritation, and then it starts to question how much your affection you feel. you know, because we lack that degree of emotional maturity. So I just wanted to stop there and just to really honor you as well, Paul.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
sir.
much.
I appreciate that. God bless you.
Applause for Pastor Ope.
In line with that, in the next 2 weeks, a podcast will be coming out on 10 yellow flags, not red flags, yellow flags. Because on its own, the manifestation of each of those ones does not necessarily mean that that's the end of the marriage, but the accumulation or the repetition of them, come on, it becomes a red flag. So there are yellow flags, there are signs to look out for. And I'll
Are
be
you gonna tell us what to do when we see those signs so that we don't get red?
we'll try. You will get them in the next 10 weeks. And in the next 2 weeks, everything should be out.
Yay.
That sounds
Stay
exciting.
tuned.
Look, where can we find this podcast? Where can we stay tuned?
Podcast.
It's going to be on Instagram. It's going to be on Instagram and podcast.
All right, we'll post it on Beyond the Pulpit if you're following Beyond the Pulpit on Instagram. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. It's been great. We'll see you again at 5 o'clock next week, Sunday, where we're still talking about relationships and developing and transitioning through all the various stages of relational life. So stay tuned on our Instagram page to see what we're talking about on Sunday.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Valentine's.
Enjoy your Valentine's evening.
Happy Love Day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.